Have you tried everything? Visualized, meditated, worked hard, and nothing has flowed? What if the problem isn't how hard you try, but when do you insist? There are stories that turn the key, and this, maybe, is one of them. This channel is not just about stories. It's about hidden codes, codes that are behind the reality you live in. And maybe, without realizing it, you've been trying to decipher them for years. Here, each case is a key, a clue, a mirror of what you may also be experiencing. Today, what you are about to hear seems impossible. But when you understand the universal laws, the impossible becomes just misunderstood. Ethan Miller was no different from you. He would wake up early, read manifestation books while his coffee brewed, repeat affirmations in the mirror, and visualize his ideal life before going out. He believed. He did everything right. I worked hard. I studied at night. He was the last to give up, and the first to get up when he fell. But no matter how hard I tried, life seemed to say, not yet. He would start projects, and they would stall. I invested energy, and nothing came back. He gave himself in relationships and was left behind. It was like living in an invisible loop of frustration, as if there was something blocking it. And when the opportunity he had been waiting for, months came along, the interview that could change everything, he knew he had to be there. He woke up early. He reviewed his notes. He was ready, but a few blocks from home, a dry sound. The tire is flat. It was the last chance. And she escaped. And it was there, standing on the sidewalk, the sky cloudy above, and his heart empty inside. That Ethan felt for the first time that something inside him was breaking. It wasn't just tiredness. It was a silent scream. Why me? Why does it never work? Maybe you've already done everything you were told to do. He already believed strongly. He has already surrendered himself with faith. Have you ever tried to vibrate loudly even when everything was falling apart around you, and still nothing? You look out there and see people achieving things with half the effort, and he asks himself in silence, is there something wrong with me? But what if it's not you that's the problem? What if there is an invisible force holding you back precisely because you are trying the wrong way? This story may reveal a silent and powerful law that almost no one tells you. And what happened to Ethan from that day on will make you rethink everything you believe about effort, deservingness, and manifestation. Stay with this story a little longer. You'll understand what's holding you back in life and what you can finally unlock. Leave your like, subscribe, and write here in the comments. It seems like everything stops when I need it most. If this has ever happened to you, this story may be just what your soul needed to hear. For years, Ethan lived like a manifestation soldier. He was disciplined, meticulous, almost obsessive. He woke up before the sun. He visualized his perfect life with his eyes closed and his jaw tense. He recited affirmations forcefully, as if trying to convince the universe by force of voice. He had notes stuck to the walls, on the bathroom mirror, on the steering wheel of his car. Each sentence was a reminder. I am prosperous. Everything is going well for me. Abundance is coming. He never missed a single video on the law of attraction. He tested new techniques every week. The glass of water technique, the 55-5 technique, scripting, vision board, salt baths. You could almost say he lived for these, but life seemed to be sleeping. The bills kept piling up. The emails with proposals were never answered. The cell phone was always silent. It was like shouting into a valley with no echo. And it hurt, because Ethan believed. And what's more, he needed believe. Believing was what kept him going. Every book he read, every lecture he attended, every nightly reprogramming audio, everything was part of a desperate effort to unlock what seemed inexplicably blocked. He saw himself as an exemplary student of the laws of the universe, but he didn't understand why with him, nothing flowed. Then came the day of the flat tire. That interview, that chance, was his last hope. But the universe once again seemed to say no. And it wasn't just the flat tire. Something inside him gave in, a kind of bitter surrender, one that can't be planned. In the days that followed, Ethan simply stopped. He didn't announce it. He didn't call it a surrender technique. He didn't use fancy words. He's got tired. For the first time in years, he didn't try to change anything. He didn't light incense. He didn't do any visualizations. He didn't even think about vibrating anything. He let the days pass by as if they didn't matter. He woke up and didn't make any plans. He ate what he had. He slept when sleep came. And strangely, he felt a kind of peace. Not because anything was getting better, but because he was finally not struggling. It was a silent emptiness. It was in this space that things began to move. First, an unexpected message from an old client. "I need help. Are you available?" Then an invitation to participate in a project he had forgotten existed. And then the call. A woman he had met months before and who had never responded. Again now said, "I don't know why I thought of you today, but I think you might be interested in this proposal." Things didn't come from where he expected. They had nothing to do with the techniques he used. They didn't follow a predictable logic, but they started coming, as if something had been unlocked, as if the universe, silently, was just waiting for him to stop. And Ethan began to notice a pattern. Each new opportunity arose precisely when he forgot he wanted something, when he wasn't trying. It was as if the act of wanting too much was unintentionally pushing everything away. What about you? Have you ever felt this way too? As if you were doing everything right, following all the steps, repeating all the mantras, believing with all your heart, but nothing happens? Have you ever had that feeling of being ignored by the universe, as if everything around you conspired to stop you just when you need things to flow the most? You may even smile on the outside, but inside there is a silent scream, a mix of frustration and exhaustion. As if time were passing, promises were not being fulfilled, and you were beginning to doubt whether you are really capable of creating the reality you desire so much. It's hard, because you're not just sitting around. You're trying, striving, studying, believing. You already understand that the mind creates, that vibration attracts, that there is an invisible code behind life, and yet it feels like something is missing. Maybe you've already said silently, "I can't take trying so hard anymore for nothing to change." Or it's, "Why does everyone else get it, and I'm still stuck in the same place?" And deep down, maybe you're starting to believe that there's something wrong with you. But what if the problem was never you? What if what's holding you back isn't your faith, but your insistence on trying to control the time, the form, the path? Because sometimes the more force we put in, the more reality closes in. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it responds to our deepest vibration. And even if you say you believe, could it be that inside you are vibrating scarcity? Could it be that without realizing it, you are saying, "I want it, but I don't have it yet. I believe, but I need it now. I trust, but I am desperate." Because the universe doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you vibrate when no one is looking. He hears that tired sigh at the end of the day. He senses the fear hidden behind your forced positivity. And like a perfect mirror, it reflects exactly that. Maybe you are also carrying the belief that you need to deserve, prove, conquer, as if manifestation were a battle. But what if it's the other way around? What if it is precisely when you let go that the doors open? What if everything you're looking for can only come to you when you stop chasing and start allowing? That's what Ethan discovered, and maybe you're about to discover it too. Not because he gave up, but because he stopped resisting. And in that empty space, without control, without demand, something invisible began to act. Something that had always been there, waiting for him to stop trying to force the flow of life. Perhaps without realizing it, you are exactly at that point, on the edge of something big. But to cross, you will need to do something that seems impossible for those who have always struggled. Here comes a little talked about, but profoundly transformative, law of vibrational surrender, or as some call it in more occult circles, the silent principle of not acting in the absence of alignment. It's not about giving up. It's not about abandoning your dreams. It's about silencing the inner noise that says, "I need this now or else," and making room for what truly resonates with your essence. According to the law of mentalism, the mind is the first creator. Everything that exists on the physical plane was before a mental image, a felt vibration, an emitted frequency. But it is not enough to think. It is not enough to desire. The mind needs to be in coherence with the body. Desire needs to be clean, not contaminated by fear, anxiety, urgency. And that is where most people get lost, because they say they believe, but deep down they are vibrating scarcity, insecurity, need, and the universe responds not to the phrase said out loud, but to the feeling hidden behind it. The law of vibration makes this clear. Like attracts like. And if your vibration is full of despair, overload, and demand, that's what reality returns, even if your words say otherwise. The real frequency is what emanates when you're not trying to be spiritual. It's what vibrates when you're alone, tired, and no longer have the strength to pretend that everything is okay. That was exactly the point Ethan had reached, and as strange as it may seem, it was in this tiredness, in this giving up of control, that the key turned. When he stopped trying to force a reality, his energy field changed. It went from "I have to make this happen" mode to "everything is fine the way it is." And this, although almost invisible, is one of the most magnetic states there is, because the universe is not moved by effort, it is moved by frequency. And when you silence the inner noise, when you don't act out of obligation, but only when you feel the real impulse, when you stop shouting and start listening, the field responds. Synchronicities appear, the right people show up, doors that seemed locked open by themselves. It's not magic, it's subtle physics, it's practical spirituality. It is the same principle that the great masters have always taught, but that few have understood. Surrender is not the end of the road, it is the beginning of real alignment. Ethan didn't know the name of this law, he hadn't read it in any book, he just felt it. And without knowing it, he entered the state of deep permission. In this state, what was previously resisting began to flow, not because he planned it, but because he stopped resisting. And are you trying too hard? Could it be that the silence you avoid is precisely what is missing? His mind finally fell silent, and the field responded, as if to say, "Now, yes, now." I can act. What seemed like inertia, it was actually a silent quantum leap. Ethan didn't know this as he lived his days in apparent apathy. He thought he was failing, that he had lost the thread of manifestation, that perhaps none of this would really work. But outside, something invisible was rearranging itself. Without him realizing it, life was beginning to respond in a way it had never done before. In the absence of control, possibilities arose that he could never have planned for. An acquaintance he had not seen in years recommended him for a job that was not advertised. An old debt he had given up on was paid without warning. A woman he had silently admired began to approach him, not because he had pursued her, but because suddenly he was available, not in action, in energy. It was as if the universe was saying, "Now that you're out of the way, I can move on." Ethan realized that all those years ago, he'd been trying to make it all happen on his own, and not out of faith, but out of fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of not being worthy, fear of being forgotten. He called it determination, but it was deep down desperation disguised as discipline. And that's where the real plot twist happens. He didn't attract what he wanted by desiring. He attracted it by ceasing to resist the now. Because desire that is born of fear contaminates the frequency. And the universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are while you desire. Ultimately, Ethan's stopping wasn't a giving up. It was a realignment. It was a quiet return to a place of balance, a place where nothing is demanded but everything is trusted. And in that space, the blessings that had been pent up began to flow, one by one. Not in an avalanche, but gently, in sync, naturally. What seemed like the end was the beginning. What seemed empty was preparation. What seemed like a delay was, in fact, the exact moment when everything needed to be silent in order to be reorganized. Ethan was never the same again. Not because he became a millionaire overnight, or because all his problems disappeared, but because he learned something that no one teaches in manifestation books. The universe does not punish. It just waits for your field to vibrate the yes. And sometimes that yes doesn't come through effort. It doesn't come through shouted affirmation. It doesn't come through technique repeated until exhaustion. This yes only arises in silence. When you stop chasing life and let life come to you. When you stop trying to prove yourself and just allow yourself to be. When finally your vibration stops being a plea and becomes an invitation. That's what changed. Everything for Ethan. And maybe now that same change is knocking on your door. And now tell me, have you ever felt this way too? That moment when, tired of trying, you simply stopped, and without understanding how, things started to fall into place. If this story touched something inside you, comment below with the word "I allow." That way I'll know you're ready to vibrate differently. Leave your like right now. This shows the universe and YouTube that this message has value. And subscribe to the channel, because here each story is a key. If you want to continue learning the secrets of the universal laws and how they are shaping your life without you realizing it, now click on the video that is appearing on your screen. What you will discover there may be exactly what your soul is asking to hear.